Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. Sledgehammers has been in the ditches recently with techs like loose crawlers, buff arclights, and tarantula. I rarely see many sledgehammers in games. So if you're like me and you've missed seeing tanks in Mechabellum, you'll love this game. Let's go. At the bottom here, we have Huberg. He is playing as a Farseer specialist, and he's up against Molani, playing as a Sabertooth specialist. Right off the bat here, we have Tarantula versus Sledgehammers. And this is what I was talking about. When you have Sledgehammers up against Tarantulas, a lot of players will favor the Tarantula because not only they're tankier, they can single-handedly take on a squad of Sledgehammers, and they're better at chaff clear. However, at the later rounds, when giants are on the board, especially with melting points, Sledgehammers really start to come into play because they can tank 5 shots from the melting points as opposed to just one tarantula. Alright, so Molani is setting up to be a very standard board with 2 Sledgehammers and 5 squads of crawlers, whereas Hubert is setting up to just the same. Notice that Hubert does not buy additional chaff clear, but instead pick up the 2 marksmen. That is because of superior chaff clear capabilities of the tarantula. Even though Lonnie has more chaff, it really doesn't translate into, like, as you can see right now, that both players kind of clear up each other's chaff around the same time, despite the fact that Molani has 2 additional squads of crawlers. And with these 2 marksmen and the additional damage from marksmen, Hubert is going to take round 1. All right, we're looking at round 2. Heavy armor is a great card for the Tarantula. Improved fire control system is a great card for the tanks. Fortified Overlord is kind of a meme build at this point. Improved Sandworm could actually be pretty good. So it's going to be heavy armor on the Tarantula and a skip from Molani. He is Sabertooth spec, which means he can have that heavy hitter in round 2, and he decided to add 2 more. And the reason for that is last round, we noticed that even though both of the chaff kind of clear at the same time, it's really what comes after is when the Tarantulas start to clash with the Sledgehammers that Hubert was able to win. So now with these some additional anti-unit firepower, it's not going to be that straightforward. But something that Molani really need to worry about is chaff clear, because Sledgehammer, they're mediocre at best when it comes to chaff clear for 200 supplies. They're about as good as a single arclight, and they're definitely not as good as an arclight. So what Hubert did is just add some late arriving fans that's going to tie up a lot of the chaff coming from Molani. Now, very unfortunate that the Sabertooth did get a lock on onto the Tarantula, and the left-hand side is missing a chaff clear. On the right-hand side, though, the timing of these fangs are just not that good. I mean, they're still targeting the Tarantula. This one's got the heavy armor, so they can stay in the game for a bit longer. But the real problem, though, is on the left-hand side is completely fallen. All right, Farseer goes down on turn 3, and we have reinforcement cards. Rhino Assault could be interesting. Maybe more interesting for the red player. So it's going to be a skip for a red player. Absorption module could also be interesting if you're going to put something, maybe not the Tarantula, because they'll probably just be shooting at chaff all game. So right now, I think maybe absorption, but everything else kind of seem a bit of a meh. So skip is a good choice here. Farseer goes down, and 2 more Sledgehammers went down. So earlier I talked about the mediocre chaff clear for Sledgehammers, and to compensate for that, there's 2 ways. One is to just get more Sledgehammers. The other way to do it is to hit Mech Rage. Mech Rage actually doubles. No, I take that back. It increases the attack speed of the Sledgehammer by about 30%. So that's pretty significant, especially you're trying to get, trying to do chaff clear. I don't agree with this board. I don't think Hubert identified a problem from last game. We did have a bit of an issue with the tarantula dying a bit too fast, and also the tarantula locking onto the wrong unit. So right now, the tarantula is still locking onto the saber tooth, which means the chaff is just coming down a little too hard. The first year, though, is helping quite a lot with the chaff clear, which is good. And now with the tarantulas gone and no additional late arriving chaff coming up, there might be a chance just to take for blue players to do a bit more damage. But with the existence of these two phoenixes able to take down the only semi-decent chaff clear in the form of Farseer, that is not going to. But I think blue player might still win this game. Not this game, this round. And here goes the Phoenix, and there is a giant of a tarantula with 57,000 HP that the red currently has no answer. Stonecaller should be an immediate pick for both players. It's just such a good unit into this sort of a line fight. We have the red player picking Mustangs. Not entirely sure what the purpose of it. I think it could add into a stronger damage output if you take range, because I do expect him to put mech rage relatively soon with maybe some squads of fangs up front just to tank that initial damage. Ooh, it's going to be, wow, it's going to be 2 more squads of sledgehammers coming down, selling the saber tooth, knowing that it was really doing nothing but shoot at chaff, and 2 squads of mustang. Mustangs is okay. I would love to see Stormcrawlers here because Stormcrawler is a very definitive answer against Tarantula. But I think the thought process is that because they have the Phoenixes already, you don't want to use another unit to do the same role. But Tarantula, not Tarantula, Stormcrawlers, they can also help with chaff clear, especially with these early arriving fangs and also the late arrival. So it's going to be Mustangs from both sides. And additional Farseer. I think right now red has an advantage just by the sheer number of bodies in his army. And these tanks were at round 4, so round 6 is kind of a critical round because that's the round you can comfortably double tech into both mech rage and also range. And once that happens, you can start to see your sledgehammer scale. And that's how I like to play anyways. You double tech, and then the very next round you should have about half of your sledgehammers already into level 2, and you essentially just take the game from there, because at that point your opponent can either put down scorpions, giants, or Stonecrawlers, out of which can be answered by just having more chaff. And your sledgehammers, once leveled, are going to be great versus chaff as well as giant unit. All right, so looking at this round, I think blue player is going to take it. That is simply because there's 0 tech on pretty much the majority of the red player's army, and I suspect that is going to change next round. Ooh, terrible tower timing for our blue player, which means this Phoenix is able to get in and do a bit more damage. Alright, here comes round 5. We already have a few sledgehammer being leveled. Efficient, Giant, and Scorpion. These are great cards for our blue player if he's ever worried about a mass sledgehammer play. But instead, he took Wasp Swamp. I think that's an absolute mistake. Both players already have Mustangs on the board. I don't know what the Wasp is really going to accomplish. I mean, you have to expect something like that, right? He's putting the Wasp right here in the middle. These 2 blue Mustangs just going to immediately turn around, and even if not all of the Mustangs turn around, these Phoenixes are going to turn around, and these Wasps are just going to get stuck on shooting at crawlers. So a waste of a card. I think improved Scorpion would have been better, or efficient Giant production, because forts with shield bubble also deal decently well against sledgehammers. Alright, so the first tech, Mech Rage, is being taken by the sledgehammers in addition to these forward-facing fangs. I had a viewer ask me, why do I like to place fangs so early, so far ahead in front of the sledgehammer, as opposed to like something like this? And my answer was, yeah, at some point you're gonna want to take Mech Rage, and with Mech Rage, and if you have fans sort of on the same line, the Sledgehammers are going to run ahead of the fans before the first shot was ever fired. So don't want to have that happen. And as you can see right now, with Mech Rage, these fans are still going to be the first unit that they target, which is doing exactly what a chaff should do to distract the firepower. And then now the tanks move in. All right, so here are the wasps from actually did blue use, yeah, blue did use, though they both used their wasp very defensively. Interesting. Okay, so level 1 sledgehammers with Mech Rage probably don't have enough DPS to gun down like a level 3 tarantula with heavy armor, but I think if I were playing the sledgehammer board, I'm probably just gonna start taking range and start leveling up your tanks. Another giant car is being offered. Walani skips it, and that makes a lot of sense. And it's going to be efficient tech. Very interesting. Taking a field maintenance card instead of range. Instead of going carry sledgies, he decided I'm just going to use sledgies as my primary tech. Huge flank coming down on the side, so this is a little different than how I usually play, because right now I just take range, and then next turn I might even take EM, right? Because the longer I can stall my opponent's units from getting towards me, because remember, EM does slow the unit down in addition to disabling this. But right now this is going to be a little different. It's going to be meat shield sledgehammers instead of carry sledge. The concern is level 3 tarantulas, they do decent against meat shield tarantulas, right? Meat shield sledgehammers. What's really doing the difference is this flank that pulled almost a quarter of Blue's army over, and by the time the unit eventually turned around, it was just a little too late to protect the tower. So the tower debuff was actually... Alright, the Farseers, they're fighting their hearts out, trying to save this round, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it's a big round going to our red player. And his board is currently stabilizing. He has an option to go into multiple directions with his sledgehammer. Fire Badger, I think it's a great card for both players, really. Fire Badgers, when taken at level 3, they do a decent amount of damage to even medium-sized units, and they do excellent damage against chaff. Right now, I think what Blue really needs, probably a few Scorpions. Whenever you see a field maintenance on tanks, you need units that kind of one-shot these tanks so they can't get the benefit from that field maintenance. The further the game goes, the more level these tanks are going to get, the harder it is for you to switch to that Scorpion build. Alright, it's going to be 2 Fire Badgers. It's going to be Fire Badgers for both players. Fire Badgers for our red player is going to serve as a primary vanguard sort of a tanking. And then for our... So red player is going to be vanguard. For blue player is going to be chaff. There's going to be another flank coming on the other side. Okay, so the theme of this game is just going to pull a quarter of your opponent's army long enough for your tank to get to the tower. And once the tower is down, your tank should be able to mop up the rest of you. Good plan. Let's see if it works. Alright, flanks are being cleared, but it's just a little bit too slow. And that's the issue with tanks, is that your conventional chaff clear units can't kill tanks as quickly. But this round is certainly a lot better than last round. We have sledgehammers still battling the army. The problem though is these sledgehammers are now going for the tower. So with the tower down, and this is going to be a terrible debuff. But just imagine, right? If you have like a few Scorpions right here, it's just going to be clumps and clumps of sledgehammers disappearing. And there's another thing about Farseers, and I make this mistake very often. In fact, I recently posted a video where I try to use Farseers as my primary carry against tarantulas, and it failed spectacularly. In the early tests when I was playing Farseer, I thought they can actually do decent damage, but the more I play the game, the more I come to the realization that a Farseer for a 300 supply unit, they're just not that good at dishing out damage. Scorpions are coming down. That's a very wise decision. Don't think you need level 2 Scorpions. A bit of overkill. I think what he's trying to do is to use level 2 Scorpions against the Fire Badger, so now they can one-shot the Fire Badger. I will probably opt for level 1 Scorpion and just have more Scorpion, because level 1 Scorpion can still one-shot level 2 Sledgehammers. Ooh, this is a brutal fire on the left-hand side, killing pretty much all the chaff, which means once the shield bubble disappears, these tanks are going to get on the tower once again. And that's going to give them that debuff. Scorpions are doing work though. Ooh, that's great. A great shot on the Scorpion, but this tower falls once again. It would be great to upgrade the tower, but it might just be too little too late. With only 277 HP left, this game is all but over. So great job with Milani. Didn't get to see carry Sledgehammers, but we did get to see Sledgehammers used in more of a meat shield in sort of an overwhelming fashion in both the two flanks as well as a huge line at the front. Thank you for watching. If your break isn't over right this minute, you have to check out this video. I'll see you on the next one.
Prepare your tactics. Mechabellum's calling. Deploy your fortress. The battlefield's alive with swarms.